Fourth Generation Warfare is a turn-based role-playing and strategy game. As a leader of a nation, the player must expand their influence and their global supremacy. This is measured by your score. To win, the player must be ranked first out of the competing countries at the end of the game. This video is going to serve as an introduction to the basic mechanics of the game and using of the interface. Here is the menu to start a new game. It's here that you can set up your game by choosing from various options. You can see from a short list from among the major countries in the world, but you can also choose any country except for a few minor countries. When you click on a country, it will open an information screen presenting its principal characteristics. When you hover over the icons, tooltips identify their role and significance in the game. You can see that certain tooltips presented additional information when you click on quote-unquote learn more. Generally, you'll find these tooltips all throughout the game. Icons, buttons, values, etc. They'll explain their use and the function of the game. You can easily access them during the game at any time you need them. But for this game, what we're going to do is we're going to choose something simple for ourselves. We're going to choose the United States. There we go. Now that we've chosen our country, it'll display the characters that we'll control at the start of the game. First, we only have our state. Who is our key character? I'm not going to say it looks like anybody. Don't know what you're talking about. If this character loses their life or their power, then we lose the game, no matter what the score is. By default, the game mode is career mode. In this mode, the characters controlled by the player are recruited one at a time over the course of the game. This game mode is recommended for beginners. Because of this, you will receive a natural and progressive tutorial and guided through your first few actions in the game. After a few games, you can use Total Government mode. In this mode, a complete team of characters of various positions have already been pre-selected for you, but it is possible to modify the characters if you like. We can modify this selection from this menu to start our game with more suitable characters. This works on a system of points. By removing characters, points are refunded to us to pick other ones. To do this, click on the plus to add them. You can review the data available for the characters and look at their characteristics, especially their experience and their psychological profile, which are very important to the game. Now let's take a look a little closer at some of the more principal options in the game. Level of difficulty. For your first sessions, it's recommended that you play on beginner mode. The game is played turn by turn. With this setting, you can choose the duration of the game from 50 to unlimited turns. 50 turns takes about 2 hours-ish to play. If we take the time to examine everything, so we're going to play with the default settings. For duration of turn, we can set the maximum duration of turn in minutes. We'll need to take our time, so we're going to go with unlimited for now. We can now select the maximum number of actions a player can take during each turn. A higher value will give us more leeway during a turn. Sitting at 5 will be very limiting, but the turns are going to be really shorter. By default, the number of actions taken is set to 5 in Presidential Career Mode and 10 in Total Government Mode. We're going to leave it as is. Additional characters. This option will allow players to control a certain number of non-playable characters in other countries in addition to the characters of their own country. For example, you can play as a journalist as a political opponent in another country while still playing as the President of the United States. Number of adversaries. This is where you can choose the number of opponents you'll be completing against in a game and be ranked against. Remember, the winner is the one with the highest score at the end of the game. By default, in Total Government Mode, you get 11 opponents, which means you'll be ranked at a 1 to 12, obviously. In this demonstration game, we're going to stay with 1. By default, China is being suggested, but we're going to click on the flag here and we're going to scroll down to Russia, and we're going to select them as our adversary. Here we can set secret objectives. There are missions unique to the player, and there are 2 types. Bonus objectives, which are easy to complete and add bonus points to your score. A new objective is given every time you complete one. The second is a victory objective, which is unique for the game. If the player completes this, you'll immediately win the game regardless of the opponent's scores. Here you can choose which type of objective you want or not. And there we go. We'll now go into our game session and understand the basic overall principles and gameplay mechanics in the interface. Here we go. Let it begin. The game takes place on the world map where you can see the characters, major cities, and production facilities or military bases. You can also zoom in on cities where you can see various buildings and characters located there. Depending on zoom level, characters are displayed in either 2D or 3D icons with small animations. It's really cool. By default, you can see all the characters controlled by the player. The display can be customized via the filters. You can see the characters in the character bar are also displayed in the same manner they are in the world above. You can combine filters to display several types of characters. This filter category displays additional information for those in the first category of filters. For example, this one shows if characters are in the same building. Filters make it possible to display only the characters from one or more countries that you want to pick from the screen. We're going to select that one there, and there we go. We can pick the country that we want. With these buttons, you can customize the map and display information around the world, for example, the political alignment from each country and the countries being played as. So here you can get all sorts of different information. It's awesome. The basic principles is to perform actions with your character. To do this, click on your character and select an action. In this case, we're going to select Create a Hideout. When the action is initiated, you'll see a colored circle on that character that also has a bar at the bottom that shows the action is being performed. The colored circle indicates the status. Green for good or successful, red for failed, yellow means in progress. When an action is successful, there'll be a variety of results in the game, receiving messages about death, disappearances of characters, explosions, destruction of buildings, uncovering new characters and buildings altogether, and increasing, obviously, of your score. 2 game rules that you always got to remember. First one and foremost, when you have your characters can only perform one action per turn, like this person right here. And you have a limited number of actions per turn that are displayed once again at the very bottom here at the bottom of the corner of the screen. Now I'm going to click the next turn button. When the player's turn is over, it's the opponent's turn. They can perform the actions, and as long as we're attentive and we see movements revealing possible suspicious activity. To move faster though, we're going to click skip. And just move this forward a little bit more immediately to the final calculation of the turn, and obviously our next turn. And now, it's our turn again. I'm following up with the second action involving the placement of a bomb's opponent in an opponent's Secret Service headquarters. Here's the explanation of the targeting system used by several actions to designate a target. Here we target a building. Note the house icon above and to the right of the target. Above is a box with icons that give information on the probability of success of an action. Because of this being a role-playing game, the success or failure of an action depends on multiple abilities, skills, experiences, etc., and a level of attack. These icons come in 3 colors: green, orange, and red. Green being high probability, yellow being medium probability, and red being low probability. The first icon here is the success on intrusion, and the second icon is the success of the action in question. So in this case, both of them being orange, medium probability. Finally, on the right is a list of the automatic return choices following the action. In this case, we're planting a car bomb. We don't want to stick around. We want to hightail it out of there. Sometimes there's an airplane icon. This indicates that the trip is long, quote unquote, and will require taking additional turn to get there or get back. So now that these orders in, we should see here he is, our driver. He's going to slowly work his way down to our little target there, and we will watch him do his thing and maybe get a little surprise. Wait for it. Wait for it. And
as these stunning images by a surveillance camera show, the buildings were blown up within seconds. The number of injured is deplorable. The investigation has only just begun, but authorities
after
are
performing an
already
action,
on the
characters
trail of
exchange
this
messages, which will allow you to acquire new information that is inherently private or secret. Besides voice or text messages, the smartphone contains apps such as the character's contacts, files, appointment planner, selection of background screens, sounds, etc. But watch out. A smartphone could be hacked or geolocated without the owner actually knowing. Up on the top left is also an icon where a player can monitor and review their actions. Up to the right is your score and those of your opponents. By clicking it, you can see a summary. Also, here's where you can find your secret objective. For all game elements, characters, buildings, countries, etc., there are information sheets available to the player. They are accessible by right-clicking any element. Here's a character sheet. Look at the psychological profile of a character. In this game, the character's psychological profile has a significant impact on the success or not success of their actions, according to their profession and their nature. You can readily understand that an investigator will have an advantage with a profile of insightful, or conversely, a diplomat would have a disadvantage with a profile of hot temper. So choose wisely when recruiting. This game allows you to perform actions on characters controlled directly by you, the player, in dark blue. They are at the national and government level, but there are many other characters, such as your opponents here in red, and there are additional characters that have some sort of relationship on the national level. Those would be spouses, journalists, heads of opposing political parties, etc. in light blue. It is possible to make these other characters perform an action by using influence. To do this, you must first obtain influence points over them, specifically using 3 kinds of actions. Down there on the bottom line. Friendly actions such as inviting them to a restaurant, corrupting actions such as offering a bribe, or threatening actions such as threatening with death. On the character's thumbnail, you can see the level influence, which is I, in the top right-hand corner. In this case, it's red at 50. With this level of influence, you'll be able to make the character perform an action that you want. Here I've asked a journalist to write down an unfavorable article on a political opponent. Once the action is done, the I points are reduced accordingly. With the influence system, you can enforce and force your opponents and characters to perform actions of treason. Fourth generation warfare also includes classic military action, so it's possible to launch destructive attacks on your opponent and conquer territory. To use military units, simply click on a military base and give them an order to attack or move. In the same turn, rules apply to these units. Here's an example. We're going to launch a missile from a military base and attack an enemy cruiser in our territorial waters. And we fire off our missile. We confirm, and we fire. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, don't forget, 4th Generation Warfare, on sale now on Steam Early Access. Bye-bye.